Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we'll be showing from the Superbet Rapid and Blitz currently being played in Poland. Magnus Carlsen has returned to the board, and even though he is no longer World Classical Champion, that honor now belongs to Ding Liren. He is the World Rapid Champion still, and here he will be facing Radoslaw Wojtaszek, a very strong Polish Grandmaster, and interestingly he will choose an opening that is the Polish defense. You'll see what I mean by this. This is d4 b5, and it's well, it's very interesting, especially for Rapid, since they will be playing first 3 days of Blitz and then 3 days of Blitz and then 3 days of Rapid and then 2 days of Blitz, 3 Rapid games per day, and then when the Blitz section come, as it will be 9 games per day, so 18 games of Blitz in total. So we're gonna have 5 days of incredible chess. So let's check this out and let's see how Magnus fared with this weird idea of playing the Polish opening. So here, Radoslaw opens with pawn to d4, and Magnus strikes with pawn to b5. As we've already discussed, we have pawn to e4 and bishop to b7. So pretty standard stuff going after the e4 pawn. We have bishop to d3 defending, and now just knight to f6. If you wanted, you could even try to pull off the f5 here, but it doesn't work because of the same idea why it doesn't work in the famous Greco game. Here, for those of you who maybe don't know the famous Greco game, after bishop captures on g2, you don't really have anything because queen h5 check, g6 captures, and now after knight to f6, white just happily captures the pawn on h7, sacrifices the queen, and after the queen is captured, knight to g6 is checkmate. So for those of you who maybe don't know the famous Greco miniature, it is also possible to get it from this position. So knight to f6 puts more pressure on the e4 pawn, and white, of course, will defend knight to d2. And pawn to c5, and now it is already as of move 4 that we have a completely new game. So c3, and now c captures on d4. C captures, we have pawn to e6 and knight g to f3, just continuing development. Knight to c6, and now we have castles. We have pawn to a6 now, defending the b5 pawn. White maybe could have decided to capture it, but you know that if Magnus is offering it, it doesn't really do anything. Rook to e1, and now bishop to e7. We have pawn to d5, not allowing Magnus to castle. E captures on d5, and now, of course, pawn to e5. And here, Radoslav says you will not be castling very early this game. So knight to h5, and now knight to b3, saying that if you castle now, I'm going to play g4 and trap your knight. So Magnus has to play g6. g6 is played. Bishop to h6. Again, Radek stops castling. We have rook to g8, and now he just moves the bishop back. Bishop to e3, as Magnus can no longer castle. We have knight to g7, knight to c5, and here you should actually consider bishop captures on c5. This knight is just a monster here, but Magnus decides to go for queen to c7, or okay, like I said, you could capture, let's say captures, but then the problem is bishop to d6. How do you avoid this? It's a very nasty move to meet, like knight e6, bishop to d6, and this king will be stuck here for very long. Even if you get the knight all the way to f5, probably bishop just captures knight, and this bishop remains here for a very long time. So instead, Magnus goes for queen to c7, rook to c1 now, nicely aligning the rook with the queen on the c file, and now knight to e6. We have knight captures on b7, opening up the c file for the rook. We have queen captures on b7, and now just bishop back to f1. Now the queen is attacking the d5 pawn, and Magnus has to defend it. But first, he will improve the position of his bishop. Rook before attacks the rook, bishop before attacks the rook, rook to e2, and now knight to e7. Of course, now the pawn is nicely defended, and rook e to c2. Claiming the c file for himself, and now Magnus could consider something like rook to c8 to try and trade off everything, but he goes knight to f5 first, puts pressure on the dark square bishop here, and now just bishop to g5. We have bishop to e7, offering a trade of bishops, and now bishop to f6. Radoslav really wants to get this pawn all the way to f6. We have knight g to f7. Now comes queen to d3, nicely developing the queen. We have bishop captures on f6, pawn captures, attacks the knight, and now just knight to h5. And here, queen to c3, and Magnus has to be very, very careful here. If the knight moves for whatever reason from e6, then queen to c8 will lead to checkmate, because after everything gets traded, the final rook will deliver mate. So you can't really move the knight away from e6, and you don't really want to. I mean, it also opens up the e file, even if you don't have checkmate. So rook to d8 here, and pawn to a3. We have queen to b8, and now comes pawn to g3, not allowing anything to come to f4. Pawn to g5 by Magnus, and now rook to e1. We have pawn to g4, further advancing his g pawn. Now comes knight to d4, attacking the knight, but also with ideas of maybe knight to f5 would be very nice. So rook to g5 by Magnus, and now bishop all the way to d3. Putting pressure on the h7 pawn. We have rook to e5, attacking the rook here, and just knight to f5. And here, what can Magnus do? Well, best would be to play d4. This would offer the most resistance, but Magnus went for rook captures on e1 with check, queen captures, and now knight captures on f6. He finally gets rid of the f6 pawn, and it seems that now everything is perfectly fine, but there is a problem, and that is that Radoslaw now plays with engine-like precision. He plays queen to b4, threatens checkmate on e7. We have pawn to d6, and now queen to c3, puts pressure on the knight on f6. Knight to d7, knight to g8 should hold a little bit better, but it's rapid chess. Both of them are very low on time. We have knight to d7, queen to h8 with check, and now knight d to f8 blocking. And now how do you knight d to f8 blocking, queen to f6 threatening checkmate, and here Magnus played knight to g6. The knight from g6 guards the e7 square, but the position is completely winning for Radoslav. So feel free to pause the video and win the game against Rapid World Champion Magnus Carlsen while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this wild idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to e2. And now there is no escape from rook captures on e6, but pretty much every other move wins as well. So congratulations to everyone who found that. Magnus played queen to c7 to try and get more pieces into the defense, but now knight to g7 with check, and he was in this position on move 38 that Magnus Carlsen resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The problem is, even if you don't have to play this, you could also play rook captures on e6 with check. It also leads to a beautiful win. Let's say king f8. Now you just play queen to f6 with check, and now you can't go to g8 because the knight, if you go king g8, knight h6 is just mate in one, so you're going to have to go back. And now once you go back, knight to g7 check forces black to give up the queen, or you run away with the king, but then just bishop to f5 with check, king to c6, and now just another beautiful fork here. You're going to win the rook, so of course there's nothing for black to try here. But Radek went for knight to g7 with check, and now it really doesn't matter. King to f8 can be played. Now knight captures on e6 wins pretty much everything, and also you will get checkmated. And if you don't go there, if you go king to d7, also doesn't matter. Just queen captures on f7, and everything falls apart. After king to c8, you could start grabbing material, but you could also just win the queen and end the game that way. So Magnus tried it. He tried to be a little bit funny, playing the Polish opening against Polish Grandmaster, against #1 Polish Grandmaster Radoslaw Wojtaszek. Or no, he's not. Of course, I believe Duda, of course, is #1. So I'm guessing Radek is #2. But yeah, still trying to be very funny. Didn't work out this time, and we're gonna show a few more games, and then we're gonna discuss the standings after the first game. 3 rounds were played, and for those of you who are interested, who like to follow the live ratings, these are the live ratings for the Rapids. You can see that Magnus is no longer world #1 in Rapid. Magnus is in fact #2. He is 1 point behind the classical world champion Ding Liren, who is 28-30, and Magnus is 28-29. So yeah, for those of you who enjoyed that, hope you enjoyed that as well. So yeah, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And I would like to thank David Kimura, MD Reason Enthusiast Group, golfsoftware.com, Paul Hinamund, and Gary Shaw for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and like I said, I will see you soon with more action from the Superbet Rapid and Blitz, but we're also going to continue covering other events, as there are so many events happening right now. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.